Don't let anyone disenfranchise you because you're a young man, especially a young white male man. Don't ever let anyone talk down to you. We need strong men out there. Strong men who are convicted, that will be good leaders, good husbands, good fathers like mine. We need that. And young women, we need you to also rise up. Don't compromise yourself. Don't look at other women and compare yourself.
God has created you for a purpose and a reason far greater than you and I will ever know on this side of heaven. But just know that as long as you're a part of Turning Point USA, you have us by your side. Some people just do not seem to know when it is time to step back. That is the line her critics keep repeating. And if you spend any time on conservative social media, on TikTok comment sections, on the political commentary accounts that have been tracking every single public appearance Erika Kirk makes, you know exactly what they mean. Because here's the thing about Erika Kirk's situation that makes it unlike almost anything else in recent political memory. If you're going to sit there and you're going to point the finger at Candace Owens, I would have said. And it is egregious that Candace Owens is implying that we would make this up, that Charlie didn't want me to take takeover. And then you slam dunk show the video of Charlie Kirk saying in Aspen that he wanted you to be the CEO. I have made a lot of claims about you lying, and I stand by the claims that I have made on this show. She did not lose her husband and then retreat into private grief. She lost her husband and stepped immediately visibly and aggressively into one of the most powerful and contested leadership positions in the American conservative movement. And from the moment she did, every single thing she has said, done, worn, posted, and attended has been analyzed, debated, and discussed by millions of people who have very strong opinions about all of it. After losing her husband at 37 and being left to raise 2 youth alone, many people expected Erika to receive an enormous outpouring of public sympathy. Just 2 days after her husband was killed, Erika appeared to make a statement on his channel.
Good evening. My name is Erika Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband.
The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country. And initially, she did. The memorial at State Farm Stadium drew over 100,000 people. The donations poured in. The conservative movement rallied around her with striking unity. But as the weeks became months, and as the controversies accumulated, and as specific moments and statements and decisions began drawing criticism, not just from political opponents, but from people inside Charlie's own movement, that unity fractured. And the fracture has never healed. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on. And I get on camera and I show everybody how batshit crazy I am. And the evidence goes on and on and on and on. This is the story of how the scrutiny around Erika Kirk reached the level it has, what the specific documented moments are that fueled it. What happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on April 25th, 2026, and why the debate about who Erika Kirk really is shows absolutely no sign of ending. Let us start at the very beginning of the public scrutiny, because understanding how it escalated requires understanding where it started. When I got home last night, Gigi, our daughter just ran into my arms. And I talked to her and she said, "Mommy, I missed you." I said, "I miss you too, baby." She goes, "Where's Daddy?" What do you tell a 3-year-old? She's 3. I said, "Baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry. He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can afford your blueberry budget." Charlie Kirk was attacked and unalived at Utah Valley University on September 10th, 2025. 8 days later, Erika Kirk was unanimously voted in as CEO and chair of the board of Turning Point USA. That speed, 8 days from assassination to leadership appointment, was the first thing that generated widespread comment. Supporters described it as exactly the kind of organizational decisiveness a crisis demanded. Critics described it as unseemly fast. The debate about the succession has never been fully resolved, particularly given the ongoing questions about whether the Aspen audio and video presented as proof of Charlie's succession wishes are authentic. Questions that Turning Point USA's own spokesperson, Andrew Culvett, partially inflamed by describing the succession video release as trolling the trolls, a phrase that the internet has never let go of. And I will not stop, because just Monday I said I was taking time off to be with my family. And now it's Thursday, and I am hosting a podcast clip, because in Turning Point, you can both take time off from work and work at the exact same time. And this hypocrisy can go on and on and on and on. What Charlie's supporters noticed almost immediately was the shift in organizational tone. 11 days after Charlie's passing, a Zoom call took place. Leaked audio from that call, published by Candace Owens, covered by Radar Online and the Irish Star, featured a woman identified as Erika discussing Turning Point USA's event metrics. Merchandise sales figures that had climbed past $200,000, and describing Charlie's memorial as the event of the century. Your questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer any thoughts that you have. Who is more conservative, and why? Erika, yes, by far. Not even close. I am a moderate compared to Erika. The call also featured the reassurance that everyone's job is safe, followed weeks later by the firing of more than 60 staff members in what survivors called the Turning Point USA Purge. The Zoom call footage became one of the most shared and most debated pieces of evidence in the entire post-assassination controversy. Critics who had already been questioning Erika's composure and public behavior found in that recording exactly what they had been looking for: a private moment unguarded in which the tone was not grief but momentum. Supporters argued the exact opposite, that Erika was doing precisely what a leader in crisis should do, holding her organization together, keeping her people informed, maintaining forward motion, that she was honoring Charlie by protecting what he built. It's evil. Charlie and I have always been very clear on our stance. Israel and Jewish people, it's awful. Anti-Semitism is what healing factor comes out of hating Jewish people. What healing factor comes out of hating Christians? What healing factor comes out? Hate in general. Nothing. The debate produced no consensus and has not since. The Zoom call comment that landed hardest. The one that became the most quoted line from the entire recording was when Erika referred to Charlie's memorial as the event of the century. She also said in the same call, "My husband's unalived." Like, I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's unalived. And it puts into perspective how short life is. Supporters heard that as raw, honest, grief-processed leadership. Critics heard a woman who had already emotionally moved past the passing and was focused on organizational outcomes. Both readings are available from the same audio. Which one you land on depends almost entirely on what you already believe about Erika Kirk. Then came the Candace Owens dimension, which escalated everything to a level nobody had fully anticipated. Owens, Charlie's close friend, professional collaborator, and the godmother of one of his youth, did not accept the official succession narrative or the organizational pivot that followed Charlie's passing. Charlie always would say very clearly, Jew hate was brain rot. He would always say it. We've been to Israel twice together, and to be able to walk in the place where our Lord walked and see the Bible come to life in Technicolor. How could you hate that place? How could you hate the Jewish people? She began publicly asking questions on her podcast in October 2025 and did not stop. Her Bride of Charlie YouTube investigative series attracted millions of viewers. Her allegations ranged from the disputed Succession audio and video to the Aspen donor meeting claims to the call log discrepancy around Mikey McCoy to the Tyler Burr camera shutdown contradiction, some of which are documented and verifiable, others of which remain unverified and contested. What made the Owens-Erika conflict different from typical conservative media infighting was the specific relationship underneath it. This was not an outside critic taking a Turning Point USA for political reasons. There you go. Oh, look at all the thumbs up. Look how cute that is. Sorry, this is a little bit more informal than probably Charlie would be reacting. How sweet. I didn't know they could do that. I hate Sim. I never like Sim. Sorry, you guys. I just wanted to say first and foremost, my heart obviously is broken for you guys as much it is for our family. You guys lost not only a boss, but someone that was the godmother of Charlie's youth, saying publicly that she believed the woman running his organization might be complicit in his passing. That is a serious accusation. Owen stated it explicitly on her podcast. Erika Kirk responded on The Charlie Kirk Show in a statement that became one of the most quoted lines in this entire saga. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I attacked my husband. And the list goes on and on and on.
Looked up to someone that you believed in his mission, that you also that you loved. You loved listening to his show, hearing his wisdom on things. I'm sure some of you have also had very personal moments of where you sat down and had private conversations with him. I want you all to hold on to those. A friend of mine, let's call her Erika. She's had a wild life, this woman.
She was in Romania. She had an orphanage. She was on a reality show. She married this famous guy. That response, specifically the claiming I attacked my husband line, was itself the subject of intense debate. Owens denied having said exactly that. She argued her actual stated position was that Erika might be complicit in some way, not that she personally pulled a trigger. The difference between those two characterizations became its own sub-controversy in a story that already had too many sub-controversies to track, intelligence asset. And I said to her, how do you do this? And she says, Tim, it's Neuros's energy and focus meds. And I said, but how do you do it after the guy, the husband and father, the kids, gets murdered? And you're out there doing all kinds of stuff? You're doing fundraisers, and you're dancing around with glitter pants. How does this happen? She goes, I could lie to you, but I'm telling you, it's Neuro's energy and focus mix. I said, really? She goes, sure. I said, how are you running this organization 7 hours after this guy got popped? The December 2025 private meeting between Erika and Owens, confirmed by both women on X, lasted 4.5 hours. Erika described it as productive. Owens described it as extremely productive and said they agreed more than she had anticipated. Owens also opened her podcast the following morning with the words 4.5 hours later, I'm alive. I'm alive. That phrase, delivered as something between a joke and a genuine statement of relief, sent the internet into a spiral that has not entirely calmed down since seems to fall increasingly flat with each resurfaced morsel from the old days. He is the executive director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security and director of the U.S. Nuclear Strategy Forum, both congressional advisory boards. I touch a little bit of topics on the grid vulnerability that we have here in our country, and just basically tell the audience what exactly EMP is and what are the threats that we need to be aware. Both women went back to their respective corners almost immediately, and the war between them continued. The comedian Drusky moment deserves specific attention because it represents something different from the political infighting, a mainstream cultural moment that showed just how widely the perception of Erika Kirk had spread beyond the conservative media ecosystem of as Americans, and what our major security issue here in America is right now. Well, an electromagnetic electromagnetic pulse can be generated by a nuclear weapon detonated at high altitude. And we have seen Iran write in its military doctrine. This is basically why they want the bomb. We've also seen them practice launching missiles from short-range missiles from ships to simulate an EMP attack. Dusky, a popular comedian with an enormous mainstream following, posted a sketch to X with the caption, "How Conservative Women in America Act." He wore full prosthetics, a blonde wig, heavy makeup, and a white suit. Turns out Erika Kirk's mother has been a CIA spy or a spy for a long time now. You know, she had like 50 different LLC companies that she creates and closes and all. And so Wolves in Finance have done a great job with that. And now, Project Constitution says Lori Friends appears in Edward Snowden's leaked Prism docs as he played a character that every viewer immediately recognized as Erika Kirk without the name ever being mentioned. The skit crossed 160 million views on X alone. That is not a niche conservative media controversy. That is a mainstream viral cultural moment in which a Black comedian's parody of a grieving conservative widow accumulated more views than most television events. NSA agents, for those of us tracking the new Tapusa narrative, this isn't just a kinky dink. It's a confirmation of the intelligent asset theory. The coincidence officially dies. They are running a script. If Lori is a confirmed intelligence asset, her daughter's entire life story suddenly looks like a meticulously managed operation, which it was. The response to Drusky's video illustrated exactly how divided public opinion about Erika has become. Some conservatives were outraged, arguing that a man wearing prosthetics to mock a widow was cruel, racist undertones notwithstanding, that we've presented to congressional officials, one being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made. And when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action. Take action. Well, they're 18 critical infrastructures. It's weird, but very weird. She's doing a CIA informational video. Weird, reports indicated that Donald personally encouraged Erika to consider legal action over the portrayal. Ted Cruz expressed similar sentiments. Others, including conservative commentators like Baron Coleman, argued that Erika's public role made her a legitimate subject of satire and criticism, regardless of her personal circumstances. An acting gig, or is this something else? Perhaps or you know, but even so, you're doing an acting gig for the CIA. Who calls you for that? Yeah, you ever get one of those calls? No, I never got one of those calls, and my agent never hit me with that one. Yeah, it's odd. Well, there's a lot of people that think that she was his handler. She was Charlie Kirk's hand. But of course, there's a lot of people think I have handlers. Yeah, well, you got about 9 Navy SEALs out. The other conservative critics, who have been the most consistent and specific in their scrutiny of Erika. Commentators from across the ideological spectrum point to the Drusky moment as evidence of how widely the perception of her as a performing, managed, inauthentic public figure has spread. Get on your feet. When 160 million people watch a parody of you, and the parody's entire premise is that you are a polished performance rather than a genuine person that is a specific kind of cultural verdict that political allies cannot entirely dismiss with a statement about cruel comedy. Erika herself addressed the full scope of criticism in her post-week comeback appearance on The Charlie Kirk Show. Evil. She is evil. When I watched that, I went, she's evil. I am so infuriated watching that back. Because she's lying. She's objectively lying, and she's acting. She was told to say that to make people believe that she had access to something that we didn't. Do you believe that Tyler Robinson murdered your husband? Yes, I do. Why do you think it is so hard for so many people to believe that reality? 'Cause it's too simple. The appearance in which she delivered the attacker my husband line and made clear she was not stepping back from the public fight. Now, let us talk about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, because this is the most recent and most specifically documented episode in the Erika Kirk scrutiny story. Again, everyone always has to think there's more to the story. Well, sometimes there's not. I've seen the autopsy report. I've seen our case pulled together. I've been in constant contact with our lawyers, the prosecuting team. I've seen it all. Right, it was because of that clip that when I went in to meet with her, I was going, oh, okay, maybe she has something that the public doesn't. I spoke to in touch with the lawyers. I've seen the autopsy report. And then I sit down with her 72 hours later, and she tells me, and her lawyer confirms to me, that they have nothing more than what the public has seen. On April 25th, 2026, an armed man named Cole Thomas Allen, 31, of Torrance, California, opened fire outside the ballroom at the Washington Hilton, where the White House Correspondents' Association dinner was being held. The attacking happened at approximately 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Please welcome Turning Point USA CEO and Chair Erika Kirk. President Titus and multiple senior administration officials were safely evacuated by Secret Service. Allen was arrested and charged with using a firearm during a crime of violence and assault on federal officers using a dangerous firearm. Erika Kirk was in the ballroom when firearm erupted. CNN anchor Sarah Sidner captured video of Erika departing the event in tears, being safely escorted by security. She can be heard saying clearly and simply, "I just want to go home. I just want to go fly." Newsweek confirmed she was seen being comforted by FBI Director Kash Patel near the exit as attendees were evacuated. The footage of Erika saying, "I just want to go home," spread immediately across every platform, and the reaction, as with virtually every other documented moment in this story, split immediately and sharply along lines that have become entirely predictable.
I mean, listen, she is absolutely committed to, and I don't want to put words in Erika's mouth. I think she's probably going to kind of clarify what this event has meant to her, at some point this week, and kind of where her head's at. So I don't want to speak for her, but, actually she's completely committed and devoted to,
fulfilling Charlie's legacy and mission, and none of that has changed. Obviously this was this was a triggering experience in more ways than one. And it wasn't just her as well. There was Mikey was at the event, and Mikey was just a few feet away from Charlotte Uvu.
Supporters saw a widow of an assassination victim who had watched her husband passed at a public speaking event 7 months earlier, experiencing and attacking at another public event, and being understandably traumatized. The parallel was real, documented, and obvious. Charlie was attacked at a speaking event. First and foremost, I woke up this morning and I was highly upset. I had a little bit of a yesterday news hangover. I realized that I'm actually so not okay with what Erika Kirk did. She essentially put a target on my back by wrongly asserting that I accused her of murdering her husband. I don't think we can let that fly, right? No, her punishment is going to be more truth. I always say she is sentenced to more truth. And I have been keeping a little secret, and it's time for me to reveal it. Erika was at a dinner when firearms were fired outside. "I just want to go home," is what a human being says in that situation. And hearing it from someone who has already lost the most important person in her life to firearm violence requires no additional explanation. Also, I am getting the sense that there is something happening, something big happening. It feels like people are upping the crazy a little bit. Something is coming undone in the background. And on that note, the big news of the day is guess who crawled from under his rock, apparently, and sent me a full-blown lawsuit. Yes, Brian Harpole. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that that would grant me, your girl, the power of subpoena. Let's get started. Welcome back to Candace Critics. and there were immediate and loud critics pointed to the footage as another example of what Candace Owens has been calling Erika's emotional asset dynamic, the pattern she describes of Erika's tearful. Vulnerable moments being amplified across media platforms in ways that generate sympathy and deflect scrutiny. This culture we're living in absorbs disagreement as a form of personal betrayal. It turns having an opposing viewpoint into a moral crime worthy of punishment. And here's what I've realized through all of this, having lived through quite literal hell these past 7 months. If you strip someone of their humanity long enough, you will arrive at the chilling conclusion. The clip of Erika crying and saying, "I just want to go home," was one of the most shared pieces of footage from the entire Wicked shooting story. Whether that amplification was organic or coordinated is not something anyone outside Turning Point USA's social media operation can confirm. That they don't deserve to exist at all. Every morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on. There is a serious epidemic of dehumanization plaguing this country. But the speed and scale of the clip spread was noted by people who have been tracking this story. The event also had a pre-existing context that made Erika's attendance particularly notable. Weeks before the Wicked, she had opted not to attend a Turning Point USA event at the University of Georgia, where JD was speaking, citing security concerns. He said at the time she was very worried about it. "I talked to the Secret Service, and obviously these guys do a very good job. And I said, you know what? Let's let Erika do what she needs to do for herself and her family." Nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in any religious tradition does it say if you're a widow, you get a free pass to lie to anyone you want, to gaslight everybody you meet, for everything you've ever done in your entire life. That is dog doo-doo. You just get overlooked. No one's allowed to bring it up. No one's allowed to talk about it. For the rest of your life, everyone has to fawn all over you and support you because, my God, you're a widow. It doesn't exist. The Secret Service later confirmed the threats against Erika at the UG event were not credible. Critics who had already been commenting on Erika's security-based no-show at UG watched her attend the White House Correspondents' Dinner weeks later and drew their own conclusions about the pattern of which events she felt safe enough to attend and which she did not. Erika's statement on X on Monday, April 28th, was direct and short. "I've looked at scripture. It's not in there. Erika Graham Gary not in here. Andrew doesn't say it. There's no requirement. I support her as the head of TAPUSA. There's no prohibition on me criticizing her for documented falsehoods. None. Saturday was yet another traumatic example of the evil in our country and the continued rise in political violence. I'm taking time to spend with my family. I will be joining the Charlie Kirk Show Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to briefly address what took place. Enough is enough. I call B's on her reason for going to the White House correspondent. Girl, just be real. Just be real with everyone. I went because I was invited and I wanted to go. You didn't go to like, oh, I'm going to hold reporters accountable. You just wanted to go.
You wanted to go, and you did, and that's fine. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So, like that. It's that kind of stuff that makes people think her behavior is more performative than anything. Just be real. People want authenticity. You wanted to go to the White House correspondent dinner. You were invited as a guest of Fox News. That's fine.
'Cause people were making fun of her sparkly outfits following Charlie Kirk's assassination. Just be you. And more importantly, videos like this don't help. They just don't. The "I'm taking time to spend with my family" line immediately generated the wave of speculation that had been predicted by people following her. The false resignation rumor. The Chase Geyser X post on May 5th, claiming Erika Kirk will step down from her role in Turning Point USA, spread so fast that Erika had to respond publicly with 3 words. First, I'm hearing of it. The speed with which the rumor spread and was believed by so many people was itself a measure of where her standing was with the community following this story. You can have a career after children, but if you try to have a career while you have your kids, there is no such thing as balance. That is such a myth. Gigi gets those little monastery toys every month, and there's this one that has the buckets that balance. If I put something in one of those buckets, it's going to drop down, and if I try to balance them, both buckets are filled, which is not realistic. I can't spend half of the day doing one thing. I missed out half of that time with being with the kids. So you have to choose where your heart has to be. Then within days, she was back on camera, not stepping back, not taking an extended break. Back on the Charlie Kirk show. Addressing the Wick shooting, addressing Candace Owens, addressing everything. Her critics immediately pointed to the gap between I'm taking time to spend with my family and back on camera days later, as another instance of words not matching actions. Owens didn't hold back and dragged her for over 20 minutes. In one sentence, she said, after today's traumatizing shooting, I need to spend time with my family, and then I will be on the Charlie Kirk show on Wednesday. So, I think she just needed 48 hours. We get to that. The response has just been brutal. Okay, everyone is calling her out. They're saying that the look is wrong. People are making fun of saying that she looks like she came dressed up as the assassin that was walking up the stairs allegedly. Her supporters pointed to it as a woman doing her job despite extraordinary personal trauma. One particularly pointed commenter captured the critic's position. Every time she opens her mouth, she digs herself into a bigger hole. I would rather not tell a widow how to grieve, but I would advise a wannabe AstroTurfed CEO to go home and spend more time with her youth she claims to love, but also just her general demeanor. Okay, here are just some of the reactions.
We can go through them. I guess I missed it. When did Candace Owens mention anywhere in the podcast that you murdered your husband? You didn't miss it. I trust gas station sushi more than I trust Erika Kirk. This user writes, I was hoping you were going to address all the questions being asked of you. This lecture was pointless. We're just getting lectured every day.
We're so tired of being lectured. This person writes, can I never once made the explicit claim that you murdered your husband? That is a harsh comment. It is also the comment that represents a significant portion of the online reaction to Erika's public behavior. The sense that her stated priorities and her actual priorities are not aligned, and that every public appearance makes that gap more visible. What does the arc of all of this tell us about where the Erika Kirk story is heading? Supporters who have stayed with her through every controversy make a coherent and documented argument. She is running one of the largest and most complex conservative organizations in America. She is doing it while raising 2 youth alone after her husband was publicly assassinated. Yes, I am grieving. Yes, alongside our great team running Turning Point USA. Yes, I'm raising my babies. And you don't separate those into different boxes. They can all coexist. And so, yeah, I take my babies to the office. I want my kids to see what their father built. I want them to be a part of it. Maybe it's supposed to be something that inspires them and encourages them to think, okay, we live in the greatest country where you can be so many different things. You can be a mother, you can be an author, you can be a nurse, you can be a teacher in one full lifetime. You don't have to just be one thing. And honestly, being a mother is one of the greatest honors and privileges and job titles you could ever have. She is navigating a conservative media civil war in which the most prominent voices have chosen sides. She has been subjected to false accusations, including claims that she attacked her husband, that she has trafficking connections, that she was present at Fort Hookah Scouting Zone. None of which has been proven, most of which has been thoroughly debunked. The Drusky parody, the online harassment, the false resignation rumors, the constant scrutiny of every facial expression and public statement. None of that is normal. None of that is what any person should have to navigate while grieving and parenting. Everyone is asking why I even went to the White House Correspondents' Center, and it was because many of the journalists in that room have attempted to dehumanize me, and I wanted to meet some of them face to face. Quite frankly, why have a conversation about me when you can have a conversation with me? So, for example, a journalist from the Daily Mail came up to me. She introduced herself, and she was saying she was very gracious. She was saying, "You look so beautiful. I'm so sorry for your loss." To which I replied, "It is so nice to put a name to the face." Critics who have been most consistent in their documented concerns make a different coherent argument. The staff firings with no severance. The Zoom call celebrating merchandise sales 6 days after her husband's passing. The Succession video sourced from a 2023 speech that had nothing to do with the claimed Aspen meeting. Andrew Cavett calling the Succession video release trolling the trolls. The authenticated donor pressure text Charlie left behind that Erika has never directly addressed. But I thought that I was going to get straight answers, and then she lied to my face. And from that point on, when I clocked her on those lies, and the public kept repeatedly clocking her on lies and seeing your reaction to it like it is right now, I grew increasingly suspicious of Erika. I remain suspicious of Erika. I think that is any person who is being honest. Why don't you respond to what I'm actually saying? I am saying that donors are telling us that that was an AI video or an AI audio that you presented of Charlie Kirk. Wouldn't that be a great time to clear that up? The political pivot away from Massey and toward pro-Israel positioning, the Spencer Pratt endorsement, the pattern of which questions she answers with detail and which she answers with silence.
These are not fabricated conspiracy theories. They are documented, verifiable, publicly confirmed facts that create a picture of an organization whose post-assassination direction does not match the documented final direction of the man who built it. How disingenuous can you be, Andrew? It's like you have to get tired of it at some point. You just got to get tired of it.
Again, I will assert publicly, you have my full permission. Go, Max. Release the entire chain. I have nothing to hide when I said, and I asserted several times. Somewhere between those two coherent arguments sits the actual truth of what Erika Kirk is and what she is doing. The internet has not found it yet. The courtroom in Provo is not designed to find it. The September 1st oral arguments before Judge Graff will not resolve it from December 15th. Okay, post getting fired, obviously, she spoke out, and I've had many conversations with her, but nothing was leaked to me about their that I presented on this show about anything that was going on internal. So, pretending that this joke that went around of I'm the first thing I'm going to ask her is, why did you murder your husband? Why are you gay? Is a little over the top. Release it. Release it all. Let the public judge. I have nothing to hide. What will resolve it eventually is time. As more decisions are made, more statements are given, more documents surface. More people who were inside the organization during this period decide to speak. In the meantime, Erika Kirk keeps showing up. No, I'm not accusing you of shooting your husband. What I am assuming that I have been open about on the show is that it reeks of dishonesty. You and that people told you this. There's something about your general nature that comes across as very dishonest. You don't seem to be interested in the very many holes. I wouldn't be able to stomach sitting or standing next to Kash Patel. She keeps speaking. She keeps posting. She keeps attending events, and the community that has been watching every move keeps analyzing, debating, and discussing louder and more specifically with every passing week. The scrutiny is not going anywhere, and neither apparently is she. What do you think? Is Erika Kirk a grieving widow being subjected to an unprecedented and unfair level of public harassment? And yet you do. You're sitting here at a White House Correspondents' Center. Why don't you ask him to give the defense what they need if you want a speedy trial victim? You lying about the surgeon and beginning the entire story about a Superman neck, but actually you were on the phone, but you lied to my face and you're pretending that I have to take that because you're a widow. 4 is the pattern of documented decisions. The firings, the silence on the donor texts, the succession video, the political pivot, something that legitimately demands the scrutiny it is receiving. The intensity of the public gaze on Erika Kirk has only sharpened as the months have stretched on since the assassination at Utah Valley University. What began as a collective outpouring of support has hardened into a sustained examination of every decision, every public appearance, every statement delivered under the lights of the Charlie Kirk Show studio. The speed with which she assumed the role of CEO and chair of the board remains a flashpoint. 8 days is an extraordinarily compressed timeline for any leadership transition, let alone one that follows the sudden violent death of a founder whose personal brand was inseparable from the organization itself. Supporters continue to frame that rapidity as proof of institutional resilience, the kind of decisive action Charlie himself would have demanded. They point to the board's unanimous vote and the repeated insistence that succession plans had been discussed in advance. Critics counter that the haste itself raised legitimate questions about process, about whether the full board had time to deliberate, and about the authenticity of the materials later released to silence doubters. The Aspen video and audio clips, presented as definitive evidence of Charlie's wishes, have been picked apart frame by frame and word by word. The spokesperson's characterization of the release as trolling the trolls only poured gasoline on the fire, turning what might have been a clarifying document into another data point in the narrative of opacity and gamesmanship. The leaked Zoom call from 11 days after the killing continues to circulate in edited and unedited forms. In it, the discussion of merchandise sales climbing past $200,000 and the description of the memorial as the event of the century sit alongside reassurances that jobs were safe. The subsequent departure of more than 60 staff members, many of whom described the process as abrupt and without severance, created a permanent undercurrent of resentment inside the organization. Those who left have spoken, sometimes anonymously and sometimes on the record, about a shift in culture that felt less like continuity and more like consolidation. Supporters of Erika respond that any large organization undergoing trauma will experience personnel changes, that loyalty to the mission required hard choices, and that the financial health of Turning Point USA under her leadership has remained robust. The two interpretations coexist without resolution because both can find supporting evidence in the same set of facts. The call itself is real. The firings are real. The interpretation is where the divide opens and refuses to close. Candace Owens's sustained questioning has kept the temperature high. As the godmother of one of Charlie's children and a longtime collaborator, her refusal to accept the official narrative carries weight that an outside critic would never possess. Her Bride of Charlie series has dissected the succession materials, the timing of public appearances, the donor communications, and the inconsistencies around security footage and call logs. Some of those claims rest on documents and timestamps that can be independently checked. Others remain in the realm of implication and inference. Erika's characterization of Owens's position as a direct accusation of murder has itself become contested ground. Owens has insisted she never claimed Erika pulled a trigger, only that the surrounding circumstances demanded harder questions than the organization has been willing to answer. The 4.5-hour private meeting in December produced statements of productivity from both sides, followed almost immediately by a return to public hostilities. Owens's opening line the next morning, that she was still alive, was received by some as dark humor and by others as a genuine expression of unease. Either way, it ensured that the conflict would not fade into the background. The Drusky sketch, with its prosthetic makeup and white suit, pushed the conversation into mainstream cultural territory. 160 million views is not a niche metric. It is a cultural event. The premise of the sketch, that the public figure being portrayed is performing rather than simply existing, landed with audiences far beyond the conservative media bubble. Defenders of Erika called it cruel exploitation of a widow's grief. Others argued that once a person steps into a high-profile political role, satire becomes inevitable, and that the intensity of the reaction only confirmed how thoroughly the image of Erika as a managed presence had taken hold. Reports that senior political figures encouraged legal action only underscored how seriously the portrayal was taken inside the movement. Yet the parody's staying power suggests that legal threats alone cannot reverse a cultural verdict once it has been rendered by that many eyes. The White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting on April 25th added another layer of documented trauma. Erika was present in the ballroom when the gunfire erupted outside. The video of her being escorted out, saying she just wanted to go home, spread with the same rapidity as earlier clips. Supporters saw a woman who had already survived one public assassination, now forced to relive the terror of another. Critics noted the contrast with her earlier decision to skip a Turning Point event at the University of Georgia over security concerns that the Secret Service later deemed non-credible. The pattern of attendance, they argued, invited scrutiny about which environments felt safe and which did not. Her subsequent statement that she was taking time with family, followed within days by a return to the Charlie Kirk show, became the latest example of words and actions appearing misaligned to those already inclined to doubt. The false resignation rumor that followed only illustrated how ready large segments of the online audience were to believe she might step away. Throughout all of this, the dual coherent arguments remain intact. On one side stands the portrait of a widow carrying an impossible load, raising 2 young children while steering a multi-million-dollar political operation through a civil war inside her own movement, absorbing conspiracy theories that range from the debunked to the still unresolved, and doing so under a level of continuous public examination that would break most people. On the other side stands the portrait of an organization whose post-assassination trajectory contains documented decisions, firings without severance, disputed succession materials, unanswered donor texts, and political pivots that diverge from the final public positions of the man who built it. Both portraits draw from the same timeline of events. Both can cite public statements, leaked audio, social media posts, and news reports. The difference lies in which pieces of evidence are weighted most heavily, and which silences are interpreted as strategic rather than protective. Time remains the only force capable of settling the question. Additional documents may surface. Additional former staff may choose to speak. Additional decisions by Erika in her capacity as CEO will either reinforce or undermine the narratives already in circulation. Until then, the scrutiny continues without pause. Every appearance generates new clips. Every statement is transcribed and dissected. Every silence is noted. The community that has appointed itself the permanent monitor of her every move shows no sign of fatigue. And Erika Kirk shows no sign of retreating from the public stage she stepped onto 8 days after her husband's death. The debate about who she is and what she is doing has become a permanent feature of the conservative media landscape, sustained by the very intensity of the attention that both her supporters and her critics continue to feed.